Ready for a deep dive into something most people don't even realize how important it is? We're talking EQ today.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, emotional intelligence. And to guide us, we've got excerpts from a book that, well, it put EQ on the map. Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence.
Absolutely.
No better place to start, right?
Goleman's work was really groundbreaking because it wasn't just about like, hey, EQ matters. He went into the science of why it matters.
Right.
And why it really is the key to like a really successful, fulfilling life, even more so than IQ.
Okay, you had me at more than IQ.
Mm-hmm.
We all know somebody, right, who like aced every test, but, couldn't navigate a dinner party.
Right.
If their life depended on it.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's hope for the rest of us?
Exactly. Think of it this way. Your IQ is your potential.
Okay.
It's your brain power, but your EQ is how you harness that.
I like that.
How you read a room, how you build relationships, how you actually achieve your goals.
Okay.
It's the difference between having a Ferrari
Okay.
and knowing how to drive it.
That makes so much sense.
Uh-huh.
So are you telling me that all of those like emotional outbursts,
Mm-hmm.
those moments we'd all rather forget, those are just our brains getting behind the wheel without a license?
In a way, yes. And Goleman goes into the whole neuroscience of it all, explaining that sometimes our emotional brain
Okay.
and the amygdala in particular can hijack the whole system.
Okay.
And it's like that near-miss experience you were talking about in your notes.
Oh, man, don't remind me.
Yeah.
I still haven't touched my bike since that close call with that taxi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, in that moment, your amygdala kicked in.
Okay.
Before you even had time to process.
Yeah.
It bypassed your rational mind completely and sent you into that split-second swerve that saved you.
So it's like our inner superhero
Yes.
acting on instinct to keep us safe.
Mm.
But if it's always calling the shots,
Mm-hmm.
how do we ever learn to manage those impulses, especially when there's not like a speeding taxi involved?
Right. And that's where these different types of intelligence come in.
Okay.
So Goleman challenges this traditional view of intelligence as a single score.
Right.
He says there's something called personal intelligences,
Okay.
and there's two. There's intrapersonal and interpersonal.
Okay.
Intrapersonal is understanding your own emotions,
Got it.
and then interpersonal is understanding others and how they tick.
So it's like having an internal compass and then like a radar for the people around us.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm sensing this is where EQ really shines.
Yeah. Exactly. It's about being tuned into your own feelings and then also being able to kind of read that emotional landscape around you.
Okay.
He gives this example of this 4-year-old named Judy, and she was considered shy.
Okay.
But during a classroom observation, she shows this remarkable social awareness.
Okay. What did she do predict who was taking extra cookies at snack time?
Even better, she correctly identified everyone's best friends, their preferred play areas.
Wow.
Even just like the subtle social dynamics of the classroom.
Wow.
It was pure emotional intelligence in action.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how many Judys are out there, just quietly observing and understanding while we're stuck on this idea of intelligence as, test scores and logic puzzles. But if EQ is this powerful, how do we even begin to grasp, like, what are its core components?
Yeah, so Goleman breaks it down into 5 key areas. Self-awareness, managing emotions, self-motivation, recognizing emotions in others, which is empathy, and then handling relationships.
Okay.
And he doesn't just list them. He goes deep into each of these with all these compelling real-life examples.
Speaking of real-life examples, that story about Elliot really got to me. The lawyer who had the brain tumor removed.
Right, Elliot.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder of just how crucial this is to navigate life, because after his surgery, his cognitive abilities were totally intact.
Okay.
Like, he could still think logically, but his personality did a complete 180.
Wait, what do you mean his personality changed after the brain surgery? How
Yeah.
is that even possible?
So the surgery, while successful in removing the tumor, it impacted the area of his brain responsible for emotional intelligence.
Oh, wow.
He lost his job, his wife left him, he made disastrous financial decisions, all because his EQ was shot.
That is terrifying and heartbreaking at the same time.
Right.
It's like having all the right ingredients but no recipe.
Yeah.
His story really highlights why understanding and nurturing EQ is so important. But how do we do that? Where do we even begin?
Yeah, Elliot's story is definitely a powerful reminder that there's more to intelligence than just, what's going on up here.
Right.
But the good news is Goleman gives us a roadmap for actually developing our EQ.
Okay.
And one of the most important first steps, and something you mentioned wanting to work on, is self-awareness.
Yes. That's been a big one for me lately, trying to catch those emotions before they turn into like a runaway train.
Sure.
Any Goleman wisdom on that?
Yeah, he really emphasizes this idea of just noticing your emotions without judgment.
Okay.
like creating that space between the feeling and the reacting.
Right.
Like, remember that work deadline you were stressing about in your notes?
Oh, tell me about it. That project had me juggling chainsaws, riding a unicycle on a tightrope.
Oh, wow.
Not my finest hour.
Well, imagine if you could hit pause right when you felt that overwhelm bubbling up.
Okay.
Not to suppress it,
Right.
but to just acknowledge it. Okay, this is what I'm feeling right now.
Okay.
That's the first step to actually managing it effectively.
So like hitting the pause button on a pressure cooker before it explodes.
Exactly.
Easier said than done, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we actually manage those emotions once we've noticed them?
Yeah, Goleman gives you some really practical techniques for that too.
Okay.
Like take anger, for example.
Okay.
He talks about taking a time out, doing some deep breathing, or even reframing the situation. It's not about denying the anger, but finding a healthier way to kind of express it or channel it.
Okay, so instead of sending that strongly worded email, maybe take a walk around the block first.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. He also talks about self-motivation.
Okay.
And the key ingredient there is optimism.
Right.
And you see, optimists, they don't just see the sunny side of things.
Yeah.
They actually approach setbacks differently.
Oh, you mean they don't spend all night replaying that awkward conversation from earlier in the day?
Exactly. They see those failures as like temporary and specific.
Okay.
Not like, oh my God, I'm a failure in life. It's
Yeah.
like you trip on a crack in the sidewalk.
Okay.
An optimist is like, oh, I stumbled. The pessimist is like, oh my God, the whole sidewalk is going to crumble.
Okay.
You see the difference.
That's a hilarious visual, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've tackled self-awareness, managing emotions, the power of optimism.
Right.
What about the social side of EQ? Like, how does Goleman suggest we get better at connecting with others, on that emotional level?
That's where empathy comes in.
Okay.
It's about understanding and sharing the feelings of others.
Okay.
And he talks about the importance of active listening, paying attention to those nonverbal cues,
Right.
and really trying to see things from their perspective.
So it's not just about hearing the words, but it's like tuning into the emotional symphony that's playing behind them.
Yes.
Like, what's their body language saying? What's their tone of voice conveying?
Exactly. It's like becoming an emotional detective.
I like that.
You're piecing together these clues
Sure.
to really understand what's going on beneath the surface.
Okay, and when we get better at that, then we can improve how we handle relationships, too.
Exactly.
Which is like, what, 90% of life on this planet?
Pretty much. Goleman talks about the importance of clear communication, setting healthy boundaries,
Right.
finding those win-win solutions, even when you're in the middle of conflict.
Right. Which makes me think about all these, like, seemingly impossible conflicts we see playing out on the world stage, right?
Yeah.
Could higher EQ be, like, the secret weapon we've been missing all along?
That is a fascinating question.
It's like somebody handed us the keys to a fleet of emotional Ferraris,
Right.
but forgot to give us the instruction manual.
Exactly.
No wonder the world feels a little chaotic sometimes. But you're saying there's hope
Yeah.
that we can actually learn to navigate these emotional highways a little more skillfully.
Absolutely. And what's so fascinating is Goleman doesn't just talk about EQ in isolation.
Okay.
He connects it to all these areas of life we wouldn't necessarily expect.
Okay.
Like you mentioned that you've been reading about health and wellness.
Yeah, I'm trying to be more mindful about what I put in my body and how I take care of myself physically and mentally.
Well, he really dives into the whole mind-body connection
Okay.
and how our emotional state can directly impact our physical health.
Okay, so it's more than just stress making my hair fall out.
Well, think about it this way. Chronic stress anxiety.
Right.
All those things we carry around in our emotional backpacks, they can actually weaken our immune systems.
Oh, wow.
And then suddenly we're more susceptible to every sniffle and cough that comes our way.
Okay.
He even cites studies that have linked emotional stress to things like heart disease.
Wow, that's pretty sobering.
Right.
It's like our emotions are writing themselves onto our bodies, whether we're aware of it or not.
Exactly. And then on the flip side, he talks about the power of positive emotions.
Okay.
Joy, contentment, love to actually boost our well-being.
Okay.
And he emphasizes things like social connection, having a strong support system, finding a sense of purpose.
So it's not just about, like, dodging the emotional potholes. It's about paving those roads with good stuff.
Yeah.
Like surrounding ourselves with people who light us up and finding activities that make us come alive.
Exactly. Creating that internal emotional environment where you can actually thrive.
I like that.
Yeah.
A lot. Okay. So if somebody's out there listening and they're like, man, my EQ could use a tune-up, What's Goleman's advice? Is there like an emotional intelligence 101 course we can all sign up for?
Well, he talks about the importance of emotional literacy programs in schools.
Oh,
Imagine if we actually equipped kids with these skills from a young age.
right.
But it's not just for kids. He suggests training for parents, for teachers,
Right.
even therapy for people who might need a little extra help to kind of rewire some of those deeper emotional habits.
So it's never too late to learn to be the emotional CEO of our own lives.
Exactly.
And not just for our own benefit, but for, everybody around us.
Right. And what I thought was really interesting was how he reframes our understanding of success.
Okay.
It's not just about, climbing the corporate ladder or achieving all these external measures.
Right.
It's about being able to navigate our inner world
Right.
and our relationships with more awareness, empathy, intention.
Right. This deep dive has been such a good reminder that we're all on this journey of emotional growth. And it's not a race to the finish line.
That's right.
It's about showing up each day and doing our best with the emotional tools we have and remaining open to, learning and evolving along the way. So for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to embrace their own EQ journey, we have one final question to leave you with. If you could go back and rewire one emotional habit from your past, what would it be and why? Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep riding those emotional Ferraris with your newfound skills.